let's unpack this. Um, have you ever found yourself sort of drawn to the shadows? You know, the ones around national security, wondering what hidden truths might actually lie beneath the surface, or maybe just why certain declassified documents, when they finally drop, they just grip our collective imagination so intensely. Well, today we're not just scratching the surface, we are diving deep, right into the fascinating, sometimes pretty unsettling world of the CIA's declassified secrets. We're going to explore how these revelations have, well, really profoundly shaped our understanding of truth itself, the whole nature of secrecy, and the intricate fabric of belief. We've pulled together a really rich stack of sources for you today. We're talking historical articles, actual declassified documents, some interesting psychological studies, and even some compelling personal accounts, all designed to sort of peel back the layers of this incredibly complex topic. So our mission in this deep dive isn't just to uncover what was secret. That's part of it, sure. But we want to truly grasp why secrecy exists in the first place, how it impacts us, individually and as a society.
And what really happens when those long-held secrets finally come to light.
Yeah, and it's compelling to consider, that the story of these government secrets isn't merely about spy games or geopolitical maneuvers. It's actually deeply interwoven with some fundamental aspects of human psychology, how societal trust evolves or maybe devolves, and even how we construct our own realities. So throughout this deep dive, we'll be exploring the historical roots, like why did secrecy become so prevalent? We'll delve into its psychological impact on individuals and, entire communities. We'll examine specific covert projects that really fueled public suspicion over the years and trace how the echoes of these actions, they continue to resonate today, influencing everything from movies and TV shows to actual political discourse.
That's a really powerful starting point.
And this whole journey, it really prompts an important question for all of us, I think. Why are we as humans so powerfully drawn to this idea of hidden truths? And what are the societal consequences when the official narratives, the stories we're told, repeatedly clash with these deeply held suspicions? It leads to this complex, often fragmented landscape of conspiracy and, control.
Okay, let's kick things off right at the very beginning then. Let's trace the origins of these secrets back to their foundational moments. Because the story of what we now widely recognize as CIA secrets, it doesn't actually start with, wild claims or crazy theories. It starts in this serious, very strategic aftermath of a massive global conflict. World War II, so 1947. Barely 2 years after the war ends, the U.S. government takes this monumental step. They established the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA, under the big National Security Act.
Right, and that act was huge. It reshaped the entire national security landscape.
It was a direct response, wasn't it, to the perceived intelligence failures leading up to Pearl Harbor. The idea was to centralize intelligence gathering and analysis, to create this organization capable of operating covertly, protecting national interests against what was rapidly becoming the Cold War threat.
Exactly. The core mission was clear, at least on paper. Protect national security through sophisticated intelligence gathering, covert operations, espionage, all over the globe.
But, and this is key, right from its very inception, the inherent nature of this work, operating in the shadows, by design, it meant that secrecy wasn't just like an operational tactic, it was a fundamental characteristic. Baked in.
Absolutely. And as history consistently reminds us, secrecy, it almost inevitably breeds suspicion. It's like a law of nature almost.
Yeah, it's almost as if the agency was kind of destined to be both this vital guardian of the nation and at the same time, this enduring enigma to its own citizens, fostering this weird dynamic of both dependence and, pretty profound distrust.
It is a crucial point, and what's truly remarkable, maybe even a little poetically ironic in a kind of dark way, is that 1947, the very year the CIA was formally established, also became completely linked with the infamous Roswell UFO incident in New Mexico.
Oh, wow, the same year. I hadn't explicitly connected those two dates.
The very same year. That event, the claims of a downed flying disc, the subsequent military denial, immediately became this early, really powerful catalyst, almost presciently establishing this direct, enduring link in the public mind between the CIA's brand new existence, government secrecy in general, and theories surrounding unexplained phenomena, especially UFOs.
So right from the get-go, that connection was there.
Right from the get-go. This synchronicity wasn't just a coincidence. It profoundly set the stage for decades of public speculation. It intertwined national security agencies with the mysteries of the unknown. It basically built this foundational narrative that if the government was involved, there must be something hidden, especially if it involves something strange, like a UFO.
And it certainly didn't take long for
Some pretty profound controversies to emerge, right?
Duh.
Further cementing that link between the CIA and these really unsettling secrets. I mean, you have to talk about projects like MK
Oh,
Ultra.
absolutely. MK Ultra is the classic example.
It ran for over 2 decades, didn't it? Early 50s through the 70s. And these weren't just like theoretical discussions. These were actual, extensive, and frankly terrifying experiments. We're talking mind control, powerful hallucinogens like LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, psychological manipulation, all under the strictest secrecy.
And the really shocking part, these projects, with their deeply unethical methods, were actively denied for decades.
Denied by the very government agencies that were funding them.
Actively denied, year after year, until the mid-1970s.
So what happened in the 70s?
Well, it was that whole post-Watergate era of investigation, right? Congressional inquiries, like the Church Committee led by Senator Frank Church, they started digging.
The Church Committee, right?
And thanks to them, primarily, a fraction of the documents related to MKUltra were finally declassified.
Only a fraction.
Well, we'll get to why in a moment. But what these declassified records revealed was staggering. The sheer scale, the horrific scope of these experiments, and who they were conducted on: prisoners, psychiatric patients, terminally ill individuals.
Oh my God.
And maybe most disturbingly, ordinary, unwitting civilians. People who had absolutely no idea they were part of these clandestine operations. Often given powerful drugs like LSD without their consent, without their knowledge.
Just given LSD.
Without knowing. Exactly. The public exposure of MKUltra, when it happened, it revealed this systematic abuse of power, this profound disregard for human ethics. It really shattered a certain level of public trust, and it cemented this chilling idea that the government could, and indeed would, conduct highly unethical, manipulative experiments under the broad, often unquestioned cloak of national security.
That's deeply disturbing.
Building on that point, the sheer scope and, frankly, the moral implications of these early covert operations, especially during those really intense, paranoid years of the early Cold War, they laid this deep, enduring groundwork for public distrust that would only get worse over time.
Right, because the Cold War just amplified everything.
Totally. The actions taken by the CIA during this era, even when they were maybe justified internally for urgent national security reasons against the Soviets, they inadvertently created this environment where the public became increasingly wary, inherently suspicious of official narratives. The Cold War context of the 60s and 70s really intensified the perceived need for absolute secrecy. This constant global tension, the existential race for tech and ideology, it led to widespread psychological operations, psy-ops.
Psy-ops. Basically messing with people's
Right,
heads,
yeah.
right? Influencing foreign populations.
Essentially, yeah. Campaigns designed to influence emotions, motives, behavior of foreign groups, and also extensive surveillance projects, both at home and internationally. These operations were meant to subtly influence foreign populations, maybe destabilize adversaries, collect vital intelligence. But their covert nature, once revealed or even just suspected, had this profound boomerang effect. It fostered skepticism and deep-seated suspicion right here at home, made people question the integrity of their own democratic institutions.
Okay, here's where it gets really fascinating for me. And it's one of those lesser-known facts that literally shaped how we talk about all this stuff today. It influenced our language, our whole public discourse in this really profound, lasting way.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Get this. In 1967, the CIA officially coined and actively propagated the term conspiracy theorist.
Coined it, like they invented the phrase.
Pretty much introduced it into the mainstream in a deliberate way.
Yeah.
It wasn't some grassroots label that just popped up organically from public debate. No, it was a deliberate, strategic, linguistic move. And the context was very specific. It was used as a dismissive label, designed to delegitimize and marginalize critics of the Warren Commission's official report on President John F. Kennedy's assassination.
Ah, the JFK assassination, of course. The Warren Commission said Oswald acted alone.
Exactly. But public skepticism was super high, right? Fueled by inconsistencies, unanswered questions. People just weren't buying the official story. So the CIA strategy, and we know this because it's outlined in a now declassified document, CIA document 103596E.
They wrote a memo about it.
They did. It advised their field offices on how to counter these conspiracy theories emerging around the assassination. The document recommended using media contacts to, and I quote, discredit the claims of the conspiracy theorists by portraying them as unreliable, maybe politically motivated, or even mentally unsound.
Wow, so paint them as crazy, basically.
That was the idea. Frame dissenters, people questioning the official narrative, as paranoid or irrational rather than just critical or skeptical or, genuinely seeking more answers. This single linguistic act had this profound, lasting cultural impact. It instantly created this powerful, often really pejorative tool for controlling narratives and just dismissing alternative viewpoints out of hand.
That's chilling.
It's a stark, almost chilling example of how language itself can be wielded like a weapon in the battle for information, and how our collective perceptions, our societal trust, are shaped or maybe undermined by these kinds of moves.
That really highlights how incredibly powerful and, frankly, insidious the manipulation of language can be in shaping public discourse and ultimately, eroding trust. By deliberately introducing and popularizing a term specifically designed to marginalize and discredit any challenge to an official story, the CIA effectively shifted the entire landscape of how we engage with skepticism.
It became a go-to move.
Exactly. It created this convenient, emotionally charged shorthand to just dismiss any alternative viewpoint, right? Regardless of its merits or evidence. Label it as the product of a disordered mind, not legitimate inquiry. And this wasn't just about JFK. It became this pervasive template. You see it used by authority figures across all sorts of sectors to address any perceived threat to their narrative, even today. This linguistic engineering profoundly impacted societal trust. It deepened the divides between official accounts and deeply held public beliefs, made it exponentially harder for genuine questions to even be heard without immediate dismissal.
So, okay, we've got this history of secrecy, denial, even language manipulation. What does this all mean for you, the listener, the everyday person, just trying to navigate this information-heavy world? Why do these secrets, these hidden narratives, grip the human mind so powerfully, almost irresistibly? It's clearly more than just like idle curiosity, right?
No, it goes much deeper. And this is where we delve into the psychological and sociological dimensions. Why do we gravitate towards these hidden truths with such intensity?
Right. What's going on in our heads?
It's intriguing because this phenomenon points to some really fundamental aspects of human nature. Psychology offers us crucial clues. One of the foundational concepts here is cognitive dissonance. You might have heard of it, a theory from social psychologist Leon Festinger back in 1957.
Cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
The discomfort when you hold two conflicting ideas.
Exactly. It's that profound mental discomfort you feel when you hold two or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values at the same time. Our brains naturally crave consistency. So in the context of government secrets and official narratives, people often experience this dissonance when an official explanation clashes dramatically with their deeply held suspicions, or maybe just their pre-existing beliefs about powerful institutions.
So if the official story feels wrong based on what you already believe.
Your brain feels uncomfortable. And the key insight here, for you, the listener, is maybe to recognize when your own brain might be experiencing that discomfort. When you're faced with an official narrative that conflicts with a gut feeling or maybe years of built-up skepticism, are you genuinely reevaluating your position based on the new evidence? Or are you perhaps inadvertently gravitating towards a more complex, hidden explanation simply because it feels more comfortable, more congruent with your existing distrust?
Because changing your mind is hard work.
It's incredibly uncomfortable to hold those conflicting ideas. So rather than revise their initial suspicion, which can be a really painful cognitive process, people often choose to adopt or actively believe the narrative that aligns more comfortably with their pre-existing distrust, even if that narrative requires a more elaborate or hidden explanation to bridge the gap between the facts and their feelings.
And beyond just that discomfort, our very biology seems to play a role too, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We also have to consider pattern recognition bias. As humans, we evolved with this incredibly powerful ability to detect patterns in our environment.
Like seeing faces in clouds or...
Sort of, but more fundamentally for survival. It helped our ancestors identify threats, track animals, find food. Our brains are hardwired to connect the dots. It kept us alive. However, this same instinct in our modern information age, flooded with data, it can lead us to see patterns even where none objectively exist, making connections between unrelated events or disparate bits of information.
Okay, so how does that relate to declassified files?
Well, when fragments from declassified secrets or incomplete disclosures emerge, like those partially released MK Ultra documents, remember, where many records were deliberately destroyed.
Right, the destroyed files.
They provide these tantalizing but often insufficient pieces of information, little breadcrumbs. This feeds our innate instinct for pattern recognition. It blurs the line between genuine fact and speculative pattern making. Our minds, faced with an incomplete puzzle, are compelled to try and complete the picture, often by inventing elaborate connections where solid information is missing. And this makes it profoundly difficult to discern between genuine gaps in knowledge and outright fabrication driven by our own cognitive biases. We want the story to make sense.
It's clear this isn't just an individual mental exercise, though, right?
Yeah.
There's a much broader societal context. That seems to make this fertile ground for conspiracy and suspicion to really take root and flourish.
Definitely. You can't discuss belief in hidden truths without acknowledging the huge sociological factors at play, particularly the widespread, deep-seated distrust of authority that is systematically developed over decades.
You mean things like Watergate, Vietnam?
Exactly. Landmark scandals like Watergate, which unequivocally revealed abuses of power right at the top, in the presidency itself. And the protracted, incredibly divisive Vietnam War, which exposed official deception and consistent misrepresentation to the American public. These things significantly, maybe irrevocably, eroded public faith in government institutions.
So people just stopped trusting the man, basically.
In many ways, yes. This erosion of trust didn't just create a vacuum, it created incredibly fertile ground for skepticism, for alternative explanations, for distrust to take deep root. When official sources are seen as unreliable or worse, intentionally deceptive, people naturally look elsewhere for answers. They gravitate towards unofficial channels or narratives that promise to reveal the real story.
And there's a community aspect, too, isn't there? Believing you're in the know.
Yes, on a more collective level, subscribing to a hidden truth often restores a vital sense of agency. In a world that frequently feels confusing, overwhelming, maybe beyond individual control, believing that you understand the hidden mechanisms at play, it can give people this powerful feeling of being in the know, of having a deeper understanding that others lack. It's a way to impose order on perceived chaos. Feel like you comprehend the underlying forces, even if those forces are seen as sinister.
It gives you a framework.
Exactly. It provides a coherent framework for understanding complex, often traumatic events, puts order to what might otherwise seem random or inexplicable. However, and this is the crucial downside, this often leads to significant social fragmentation. Trust isn't rebuilt in the existing established institutions. Instead, it frequently shifts away from those traditional structures to alternative online or community-based groups who share and mutually reinforce these hidden narratives. This dynamic creates powerful echo chambers, and it can dramatically deepen societal divides. People retreat into communities that validate their specific, often exclusive beliefs, sometimes making genuine dialogue across these divides nearly impossible.
Yeah, you see that online all the time.
It's truly compelling how that paradox plays out. While individuals and groups are earnestly seeking a sense of control and clarity by believing in these hidden truths, they can inadvertently deepen societal divides, which can have significant, sometimes profound, real-world implications. This fragmentation isn't just academic. It impacts everything from political discourse to public health initiatives, makes consensus building incredibly difficult. When trust migrates en masse from traditional, shared institutions to these insular alternative communities, it can lead to a breakdown in shared reality. Different groups operate on fundamentally different sets of facts, interpret events through vastly different lenses.
The breakdown in shared reality, that's a heavy thought.
It profoundly underscores how deeply our psychological need for certainty and control can intertwine with broader societal structures, creating both a powerful sense of belonging for believers and this growing, often impassable chasm between different segments of the population.
Okay, let's pivot now. Let's move from the historical context and the psychology and dive into some of the specific projects, the actual declassified files that really define this landscape. Because these aren't just abstract ideas, right? They involve real people, real operations, astounding claims that have just soaked into our culture and shaped how we see government power.
That's an essential shift, and as we connect this back to the historical timeline, the revelations from these specific projects powerfully underscore the potential for covert operations, even those initially justified by national security, to profoundly impact individuals, often with devastating long-term consequences, and to irrevocably shape public perception of authority. They compellingly demonstrate that the lines between urgent national security needs and fundamental ethical boundaries can become dangerously, almost imperceptibly blurred. And the ramifications of that blurring can last for decades, systematically eroding trust, fundamentally altering how we view government responsibility.
So let's revisit MKUltra again, but maybe go a bit deeper.
Yeah.
Because it really is the quintessential example, isn't it?
It really is. It bears a much closer look because it exemplifies these ethically dubious operations so starkly. These were extensive systematic experiments. They delved into mind control, yes, but also things like creating Manchurian candidate sleeper agents programmed to act without conscious recall.
Seriously,
But
like the movie.
that's the idea they were exploring. Methods to extract confessions, undermine an individual's will, using drugs, hypnosis, torture. Various forms of psychological manipulation that certainly cross that line. And the controversy is profound because in 1973, the CIA director at the time, Richard Helms, ordered the destruction of virtually all MK-Ultra documents.
Destroyed them.
He claimed it was an effort to protect the agency from embarrassment following the Watergate scandal. But this deliberate act of destruction, it led to persistent, entirely legitimate questions. Did the full truth ever really emerge? Or are fragments of even more disturbing operations still hidden? Maybe forever. This destruction, far from containing suspicion, only fueled it, powerfully reinforcing that public idea that there's always more to the story, always something more nefarious being concealed.
And the human cost.
Yeah.
We mentioned unwitting civilians.
Immense. We have documented cases like Frank Olson, a biological warfare scientist who died under very suspicious circumstances after being unknowingly dosed with LSD as part of an MK-Ultra experiment, and numerous survivor accounts. Individuals claiming long-term trauma, psychological damage, memory loss from LSD experiments they never consented to. These weren't just theoretical subjects, real people whose lives were profoundly, often irrevocably, altered. It humanizes the abstract horror of secrecy and the abuse of unchecked power.
It's truly chilling, the sheer disregard for human autonomy. But then, as you mentioned, there's another incredible, almost unbelievable project, one that shows how far they were willing to push boundaries. The Stargate Project.
Ah, yes, Stargate.
Yeah.
Psychic spying.
Psychic spying. This is the lesser-known yet absolutely true fact that the CIA, along with other U.S. intelligence agencies, actually research remote viewing. Essentially, people claiming they could see remote locations or objects using only their minds, no physical presence.
Sounds like science fiction.
Totally. But from the 70s through the mid-90s, it was a real funded, extensive research program, operating out of places like the Stanford Research Institute, SRI.
What even prompted them to look into something so out there?
Well, the initial spark seems to have been reports of Soviet psychic research. This spurred U.S. intelligence to investigate if there was a psychic gap, like the missile gap. Could the Soviets spy psychically?
A psi gap.
Okay. So the project's goal was to test if human consciousness could truly transcend physical space and time to gather vital intelligence. And within Stargate, there are these fascinating, if controversial, case studies. One notable example is Ingo Swann,
I've heard that name.
a self-proclaimed psychic. Swann reportedly described hidden military facilities, like specific parts of a Soviet submarine, even details of structures on Mars.
Mars.
Yes, Mars, with uncanny, sometimes surprisingly accurate detail, according to some accounts, baffling some of the government researchers involved. Another participant, Joseph McMonigle, a retired Army intelligence officer, also claimed success. Some researchers suggested his hits were statistically significant.
So were they actually getting useful intelligence this way?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Imagine the internal debate. Here were people seemingly providing verifiable details about top-secret locations or events, details that couldn't be explained conventionally.
These kinds of anomalies, even if the program was eventually shut down in 1995 due to lack of consistent, actionable intelligence.
So it was shut down.
Yes, declassified and shut down. But the fact they even explored it demonstrates the extraordinary lengths intelligence agencies would go for an edge, even exploring avenues that defy known physics and mainstream science.
Mind-bending stuff. Okay, and then we arrive at the enduring, maybe the most famous mystery of all, UFOs and UAPs. Unidentified aerial phenomena.
The ultimate hidden truth for many.
We already mentioned the 1947 Roswell incident as that early pivotal spark, right? Establishing the precedent for suspicion. The weather balloon explanation just never stuck for a lot of people.
Left that persistent thread of skepticism.
But fast forward to today, the 2020s. We're seeing entirely new waves of declassification and official acknowledgement. The CIA, other branches of the government, they've declassified thousands of pages on UFOs, UAPs. It's reignited public interest, dramatically shifted the conversation. This isn't just old news. It's a continuous unfolding story happening right now.
And what's particularly significant are the UAP files and revelations from, say, 2021 through 2023. We've seen highly credible witnesses, multiple Navy pilots, radar operators, testifying under oath about encounters with objects defying known physics.
The Tic Tac videos, the gimbal video.
Exactly. Those objects, often described as Tic Tacs or gimbals, reported moving in ways current aviation tech just cannot replicate. accelerating incredibly fast, stopping on a dime, changing direction with no visible propulsion, descending from extreme altitudes to sea level in seconds?
Stuff that shouldn't be possible.
According to our current understanding, no. These testimonies, captured in those famous videos given in public congressional hearings, they've effectively made UFO talk a mainstream national security issue, not just fringe speculation anymore.
Right, it's moved from the tabloids to Congress.
Decisively. To the Pentagon, serious academic debate, forcing a serious, open consideration of phenomena previously just dismissed out of hand.
But it's really important here to address that persistent myth, right? The idea that the CIA has all the answers. Full control of all UFO knowledge, perfectly cataloged in some secret vault.
Yeah, the smoking gun idea.
The reality, as revealed by the declassified files themselves, it often tells a far more nuanced and, frankly, more confused story, doesn't it?
It really does. These documents frequently showcase genuine confusion, misinterpretation, a lack of definitive answers from pilots, radar operators, intelligence analysts reporting these unknown craft. While the reports are real and the objects often remain genuinely unidentified by conventional means, the files don't necessarily contain proof of extraterrestrials or definitive answers. Instead, they paint this picture of an intelligence community grappling with unexplained phenomena, often as perplexed and bewildered as the public, rather than sitting on a trove of absolute hidden truths.
That's a critical distinction.
Yeah.
The struggle to understand, not a secret mastery of knowledge.
Precisely. And that leads us directly to another rather unsettling aspect: Cold War psy-ops and disinformation. It's vital to remember that disinformation, deliberately spreading false or misleading information, was itself a thoroughly documented, actively employed CIA tactic during the Cold War.
So they deliberately put out false stories.
Yes. At times, the CIA intentionally blurred the line between myth and fact, often to confuse adversaries, sow discord, influence public opinion, both abroad and sometimes subtly at home. Campaigns like Operation Mockingbird, for instance, allegedly involved using media assets to plant stories, further muddying the waters of truth. This deliberate tactic, now openly acknowledged in some declassified documents, it further fuels that perpetual cycle of suspicion, makes it incredibly difficult for the public to discern truth from fabrication, even decades later.
Because if you know they've lied before,
How can you trust them now? Exactly. When an agency actively engages in creating and spreading false narratives, it inevitably damages its own credibility, makes any future official statements, even genuine ones, subject to intense scrutiny, disbelief, and that deeply ingrained assumption of deception. It's a self-perpetuating problem, past actions casting long, dark shadows on present disclosures.
Okay, let's fast forward to today then. Given this really rich, often unsettling history, how do these historical shadows, these declassified secrets, how do they manifest in our current hyper-connected world? Because they're everywhere you look, aren't they? Permeating pop culture, influencing politics, even shaping our relationship with technology. This isn't just history, it's alive.
It's striking to consider how these historical precedents and the revelations that followed continue to shape contemporary culture, politics, even our relationship with technology. The legacy of secrecy, the profound questions it raised, they've become deeply embedded in the modern psyche, almost like a default lens through which many now view official information.
So how does that play out, like in movies?
Well, consider the interplay between pop culture and politics. The recent UAP document releases, for instance, they don't just fuel congressional hearings. They feed Hollywood sci-fi blockbusters, video games, endless online content. Think about iconic films like The Manchurian Candidate, which eerily predated some MK Ultra revelations, or The X-Files.
The truth is out there.
Exactly. Its entire mythology built around government cover-ups, alien conspiracies, secret projects, even lighter stuff like Men in Black, plays on that idea of hidden agencies managing our interaction with the unknown. These movies and shows constantly reframe these declassified secrets or the belief in them for a mass audience, exploring themes of government manipulation, hidden truths, the otherworldly. They tack directly into our collective anxieties and curiosities, often blurring the lines between fiction and perceived reality, making the unbelievable seem just a little more plausible.
And the speed these ideas travel today, it's insane. And online communities, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube.
Absolutely critical, spreading theories at astonishing speed. These digital platforms don't just disseminate info, they create powerful digital echo chambers. Alternative communities where shared beliefs about hidden truth are constantly reinforced, sometimes to the complete exclusion of counter-evidence. It's a powerful, often uncontrollable dissemination network, shaping beliefs globally almost instantly.
And how does this impact actual politics? Partisanship?
Profoundly. Secrecy and the ingrained belief in its pervasive influence often fuels and exacerbates existing political divides. On one side, you have segments, often feeling disempowered, distrustful, who believe hidden elites are pulling strings, manipulating events behind the scenes for nefarious goals. On the other side, many dismiss such claims as pure paranoia, baseless speculation, maybe even tools of political destabilization, linking them to ideologies they oppose. This dynamic deepens societal divides, makes it exponentially harder to find common ground, agree on objective facts, erodes civic trust, makes productive dialogue incredibly challenging.
And you mentioned technology earlier. How does that connect?
Well, this extends deeply into tech culture, too, creating this fascinating modern parallel. CIA-inspired suspicion is clearly reflected in contemporary debates about data privacy, fears of surveillance capitalism.
Surveillance capitalism.
Yeah.
Our data being bought and sold.
Essentially, yeah. The idea that our every click, our personal data, our preferences are being meticulously collected, analyzed, commodified by unseen forces, corporate or governmental. It directly echoes those Cold War anxieties about covert government control and omnipresent surveillance. To draw an analogy, the very concept of the algorithm, this invisible, seemingly omnipotent, often inscrutable force dictating what we see online, what news we get, subtly influencing what we think.
Like a hidden hand.
It resonates deeply with those old fears of covert government control. It's a modern manifestation of the same underlying unease about hidden power structures operating beyond our comprehension or consent. Only now, they often wear the friendly face of a search engine or a social media platform.
Wow. Okay, so it's abundantly clear this isn't just an American thing, right? These perceptions, these narratives, they must vary wildly depending on where you are in the world.
Oh, absolutely. That's a critical observation. The impact of the CIA's history and the narratives around it are not monolithic at all. They're filtered through deeply entrenched local histories, specific political contexts, unique cultural beliefs.
So how does it look different elsewhere?
It underscores how deeply ingrained the concept of hidden influence is globally, but the interpretation changes dramatically based on that local history and cultural lens. The CIA's activities have left very different imprints.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, in the United States, as we've discussed, secrecy often represents this complex duality: patriotism versus betrayal. Protecting the nation versus abusing power against citizens, like MKUltra, is this constant, uneasy tension.
Right, what say in Latin America?
A starkly different perception, often rooted in painful historical experience. The CIA has documented involvement in numerous historical coups and interventions: Chile 73, Guatemala 54, Brazil 64.
Destabilizing elected government.
Exactly. This fuels deep-seated resentment, shapes this robust, often sorrowful, conspiracy-laden folklore. Narratives where external forces, specifically the U.S. and its agencies, are seen as perpetually manipulating local politics, economies, social structures. The idea of hidden foreign hands pulling strings isn't just theory. For many, it's documented historical reality informing their contemporary view of global power.
Okay, what about somewhere like Russia or China?
There, the narrative around CIA mysteries takes on another strategic dimension. It's often framed as potent propaganda by their own state-controlled governments, used to demonize Western influence, portray the West as inherently aggressive and manipulative, and justify their own robust intelligence operations and state secrecy. They present the CIA's history interventions, disinformation, as proof of Western malfeasance, subtly mirroring it with their own agencies, a self-serving cycle of mutual suspicion.
Weaponizing the past.
Precisely. And finally, look at regions like South Asia and the Middle East. The perception gets another layer of complexity. Here, CIA operations and Western intelligence often blend with older, deeply entrenched traditions of mysticism, spiritual narratives, centuries of complex geopolitical struggles, colonial legacies. Western control becomes integrated into wider, often esoteric, narratives about hidden forces, ancient prophecies, grand manipulations influencing destiny. It's almost spiritual, beyond just politics.
So the same secret gets interpreted through wildly different cultural lenses.
It's truly fascinating, and this global perspective reminds us that humanity at its core craves truth, understanding, yet simultaneously thrives on the allure of mystery, the potential of the unknown. We want definitive answers, but part of us is inherently captivated by what we can't fully explain, the idea there might be something just beyond our grasp.
So, okay, after this incredible journey through the files, the psychology, the global view, what's the ultimate takeaway here for you, the listener? Secrecy clearly wields immense power, for good and for ill. Let's really try to critically analyze it, weigh the strengths against the weaknesses, the dangers.
This raises that important, almost philosophical question. Is secrecy a necessary evil, an unavoidable tool for survival? Or does its very existence, its ingrained nature, ultimately do more pervasive harm than good in the long run? There are compelling arguments on both sides, which is why this discussion is so enduring.
Okay, let's hear the case for secrecy first. The strengths.
Well, from a pure national security perspective, secrecy is often seen as absolutely vital. Protecting a nation from adversaries. Maintaining a strategic advantage. Shielding intelligence methods, sources, ongoing operations from hostile powers. It can also be argued it's crucial for preventing widespread public panic during extremely sensitive situations, allowing governments to manage crises without immediate alarm hindering response. And, critically, it shields intelligence sources, the actual people risking their lives, human assets, informants. Protecting them ensures the continued flow of vital information. Without that protection, sources dry up.
Okay, that makes sense from a security standpoint, but the flip side, the weaknesses, the dangers.
They are equally, if not more, damaging in the long term, especially in an open society. Unchecked secrecy inevitably breeds profound distrust in government and institutions. When the public believes they're being deliberately kept in the dark, or worse, lied to, the foundation of trust erodes. This erosion fuels dangerous conspiracy cultures, spreads misinformation like wildfire, creates alternate realities that are hard to dislodge, leading to deep societal division. Ultimately, this undermines democratic transparency and accountability, makes it harder for citizens to hold leaders responsible, for institutions to function ethically. A breakdown in shared civic understanding.
But you mentioned something paradoxical, benefits arising from public intrigue.
Yeah, it's interesting. This persistent curiosity, it often sparks genuine scientific inquiry. Like the UAP reports reigniting serious interest in advanced physics, aerospace, space exploration, pushing scientists to re-examine what we think we know. Beyond science, this intrigue deeply inspires cultural creativity. Films, novels, documentaries, podcasts, a rich wellspring for art, literature, critical thought, prompting reflection on government, power, reality itself.
But we can't ignore the dark side of that intrigue. Right, the dangers of unchecked conspiracy cultures.
Absolutely cannot ignore that. While healthy skepticism is vital, when conspiracy movements become untethered from reality, from evidence, they risk escalating into dangerous radicalization. This isn't theoretical. We've seen examples where alternative theories culminate in real-world violence, domestic terrorism, civil unrest. These cultures profoundly contribute to social division, polarization. Groups retreat into echo chambers, demonizing outsiders. The dangers are tangible, fragmenting societies, eroding cohesion, threatening stability and shared reality.
It's a real double-edged sword then.
Absolutely. And what's truly fascinating here as we bring these threads together is how this whole discussion reminds us that humanity profoundly craves truth, definitive understanding, yet simultaneously thrives on the enduring allure of mystery, the unknown. It's this deep-seated, maybe contradictory human condition. We desperately want answers, want to pull back the final curtain, but a part of us is also inherently captivated by what we can't fully explain, the persistent idea that there might always be something just beyond our current grasp.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, navigating this world saturated with conflicting narratives, official statements, alternative theories? We've really gone deep today, unpacking the history of government secrecy, MKUltra, Stargate, delving into the psychology of belief, cognitive dissonance, pattern recognition, societal distrust. We explored specific declassified projects, the UAP story unfolding now, seeing how these echoes resonate through culture, politics, tech across the globe. We've critically looked at the arguments for and against secrecy and the powerful, sometimes dangerous impact it has.
And this journey, for me, raises this important, maybe unsettling final question. It goes beyond the files themselves. What if full disclosure changes nothing? Seriously, what if tomorrow the CIA or whoever revealed absolutely everything? Every last detail about UFOs, mind control, surveillance? Would society simply accept it? Or, given decades of ingrained distrust, the pervasive influence of conspiracy culture, that human tendency for suspicion and pattern seeking, would we doubt it even more? Maybe generate entirely new layers of conspiracy about the real truth still being hidden.
That's a chilling thought. Would we even recognize the truth if we saw it?
The future, perhaps, lies not just in discovering the truth, whatever that might be, but in a deeper understanding of why we are so profoundly drawn to it, why we fear it, and how secrecy continues to shape our collective destiny, our very perception of reality. As history has powerfully shown, it's not only about what they don't want us to know, but also, maybe even more importantly, about what we, as a society, are truly ready or willing to believe.
A truly powerful and, thought-provoking idea to leave you with. This deep dive into the CIA's secrets. It's been a journey not just into classified documents, but into the very heart of trust, suspicion, and that enduring human quest for understanding in a world full of shadows and revelations. We really hope it's given you plenty to mull over, and perhaps even inspired you to question the narratives around you, whether they're the official pronouncements or those compelling alternative theories.